Welcome to TechWire, a conversation about government, politics, and technology in California. My name is Christina Gagnier, and today I'm joined by Anna Brannen, the Chief Deputy Director of the Department of Technology. Anna, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Christina, for having me on. This is great.
So can you tell me a little bit about your role at the Department of Technology?
Sure. I'm the Chief Deputy Director over Policy, and so we're the entity that basically sets the direction for the state's technology. So we're involved in the planning, the investment, and the operation of technology in the state. And we're responsible for putting together kind of the policy framework on how the state starts projects, how the state designs those systems, and then ultimately how it implements it, and then how we make sure that the information contained in those systems is protected and secure. So it's a great place to be. It's a great role to be in, and you're really involved in everything the state does.
And what are some examples of some of these policies?
Well, over the last couple years, we've issued 20 different policies. Most recently, we've implemented some policies in clarifying or identifying the business case for purchasing certain types of policies. We've also been involved in how we can streamline some of the reporting that the departments have to do so that we make government more efficient. And finally, kind of how we, for certain types of technology, how do we ensure that the information contained in those technologies is protected and safe? So we have kind of a wide gamut of policies that we're involved in.
So earlier this year, your agency launched the GIS portal, and it's been launched with great success and much acclaim. Can you talk a little bit about that program and how it's going?
Well, the GIS program has just gone wild. Everybody wants GIS. In fact, our GIS officer, Scott Gregory, is just overwhelmed with requests. And we're pretty excited, too, because we figured out a way to charge people for that. Not citizens, but actually departments, and how we can pay for that and make that sustainable. And so, in fact, they're down at CalExpo today, or they're down at CalExpo helping use GIS at the CalExpo. So that's pretty cool stuff.
Great. Well, this sounds like an excellent example of productive project management. I know project management right now is a big emphasis for the state of California. Can you talk a little bit about some of the core challenges with project management in the Department of Technology, and then some of the lessons learned?
Sure. You know, we oversee a portfolio of IT projects in the state of about over 400 IT projects, probably with a kind of a value of over $5 billion. I think, you know, some of the common challenges we see on projects is, you know, always using the processes that you have in place. What happens a lot of times is folks forget, they get so caught up in meeting deadlines that they try to sidestep some of the processes, but those processes keep you successful and keep you on track. Another emphasis is you can never start planning too early. Some of the projects that seem to do really well is they actually kick off some of their activities before they're officially kind of underway, and that'll make things work better. And then finally, always resolving your issues. The longer questions go unanswered on a project, the more risky the project becomes. So always doing what you're supposed to do, starting things early, and resolving unanswered questions. Really, it's not probably super sexy or glamorous, but it really does help you get the job done.
And what are some new projects and initiatives that you're focusing on right now?
Well, of course, we have the Fiscal project, the state's largest IT project underway. They actually have already started implementing, so they're well on their way to success. Some of the other exciting projects, they're doing some really interesting things in the Department of Parks and Rec, and Parks and Rec, CHP, and Fish and Game have all come together to utilize a common computer-aided dispatch system. So that's like one of the first times that the state has brought all these entities together, and they're actually doing something to implement technology in some new and interesting ways. So there's lots of other projects, but I just turned 55, so I have memory problems now. So I can't remember all of them. Just kidding.
Well, it sounds like the Department of Technology and your role in particular seems to be the technology glue, making sure that everybody is talking to one another and operating correctly. And I know that TechWire reported earlier this year that you would be retiring. It would be great for you to share some of your perspectives just because your point of view is invaluable on technology in California.
Well, I've been working for the state for over 30 years. I actually started my career working in a state hospital, and so down in Southern California, and this is kind of where I've ended up. But I've had the opportunity of working in some of the best public policy programs, I think, in the nation. I've worked in developmental services, I've worked in unemployment insurance, I've worked in job training, I've worked in the Cal Grant program. I think one of the most rewarding things about working in government is being a public servant, because it's a type of job where you get to touch people's lives. We can probably make a lot of more money if we work in other parts of the technology industry, but there's no other type of job where you can actually make a difference in people's lives. So as I'm ending my public service career, I think the kind of words of advice I would give anybody coming up is always remember you're adding value. Whatever you do, make sure you remember who you ultimately serve, and that's the people of California. I think also whatever job you're in, get the most value out of that job. A lot of times we get in jobs and we're thinking, kind of like that movie, Peggy Sue Got Married. Remember when she was in the high school classroom and she was taking algebra and she gets up and she walks and she says, trust me, I'm never going to need this. I think all of our jobs we're learning lots of different things. And we may not need it at the time, but we may need it further on in our career. And finally, always keep a sense of humor. Always remember to laugh. I've had lots of opportunities to work with some great leaders, and I think the thing that stood out for me was they always remembered to laugh. Always, keep your sense of humor and don't take it all too seriously. So that would be my advice.
Well, it's a very refreshing perspective to hear about that focus on impact, and I think that a lot of the members of our audience, many of whom are female, have questions about whether they can enter into the IT space. I know that the topic of women in technology and the barriers that are still there is something that troubles women who might want to jump into this space. What's your advice for women who might want to take the career path that you have and jump into the tech sector?
I think it's a great place to be. You get to work on lots of different in lots of different areas. You get to learn lots of different things. My degree is in psychology, and it was never my intent to go in technology. In fact, the only bad grade I ever got in college was in learning how to program, and I got a C. Everything else was A's. So, but you get to learn all these new things. A lot of times you're forced to step out of your comfort zone, and so that's good for you. I think that's good for women because we have a tendency to, well, I know this and I don't want to take this risk. So I think that's really great. You get to learn that. And I think, women bring a unique set of skills to the workplace too. In the technology world, there's kind of this engineering kind of mentality, kind of this super analytical, super logical kind of thought process. And I think what women bring to the workplace is that softer side, the softer skills. I think we can bring folks together and can build bridges, we can communicate. We have this kind of empathy, sympathy for folks. That a lot of, in our industry, it's just not a natural kind of barrier. There's not a natural fit to that. And so I think there's lots of opportunities. We can bring those skills that we kind of innately have to the workplace and make a real difference.
Well, thank you for sharing that perspective. I know that a lot of women are a little recalcitrant to jump into tech, but you, I think, have demonstrated how we add value to the space and to the conversation. Well, Anna, thank you so much for joining me today and just for sharing your history and what you're working on. It's a great perspective and the type of thing that TechWire is always trying to focus on.
Well, thank you. It's been great.
And thank you to our audience for once again joining us in a conversation about government, politics, and technology.